The space station floated in the darkness between three star systems. It was massive, bigger than most cities on Earth. Silver walls stretched in every direction, and lights blinked from thousands of windows. This was the Galactic Combat Academy, the most famous military school in the known universe. Ships arrived from every corner of the galaxy. They carried the best young soldiers from dozens of alien races. These were not ordinary students. They were the children of generals, admirals, and planetary leaders. They had trained since birth. They had never known failure. The first ship came from the Empire. There were tall beings with blue skin and 4 arms. They moved with perfect grace. Every step was calculated. Every motion was smooth. They believed emotions were weakness. They had removed all feelings from their minds through centuries of mental training. The second group came from the Dominion. There were massive creatures. They stood 3 meters tall with thick gray skin like stone. Their eyes were small and black. They felt nothing. No fear, no joy, no anger. They were living weapons bred for war across 10,000 years. More ships followed. They came with their thin bodies and large heads. They could read thoughts and see the future. They arrived in their dark armor, silent and deadly. They marched out in perfect lines, their mechanical bodies clicking with each step. 12 races in total, 48 cadets, the best of the best from across the stars. They gathered in the main hall. The room was enormous. The ceiling rose so high that clouds formed near the top. Holographic displays showed battle statistics and training schedules. Everything was clean and perfect. The cadets stood in their groups. They did not mix. Each race kept to itself. They looked at each other with cold eyes. There was no friendship here, only competition. A cadet named Tal stood at the front of his group. He was young by his people's standards, only 80 years old. But he had already fought in 3 border wars. He had killed enemies without feeling anything. His mind was empty and calm, like still water. "I heard they assigned a human instructor this year," said a cadet. His voice was deep like thunder. "A female human." Tal turned his head slowly. "A human, that is, unexpected." "It is insulting," said another. "Humans are children. Their species has only been in space for 200 years. What can they teach us?" The cadet laughed. It was a strange sound, like rocks grinding together. "Perhaps they want to show us what not to do. Humans are ruled by their feelings. They cry, they scream, they love and hate. They are weak." Tal nodded. He had studied humans in his military training. He knew their history. They had spent most of their existence fighting each other, war after war after war. They killed millions of their own kind over ideas and beliefs. It was madness. "They are unstable," Tal said. "Dangerous to themselves and others. I do not understand why the Academy would choose one as an instructor." The doors at the far end of the hall opened. All 48 cadets turned to look. A human walked in. She was small, shorter than every cadet in the room. Her black hair was pulled back tight against her head. She wore a simple gray uniform with no medals or decorations. Her boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Her name was, she was 34 years old, young, so very young compared to the ancient beings watching her. Walked to the center of the room. She stopped and stood still. Her hands were clasped behind her back. Her face showed nothing. The cadets stared at her. Some of them made sounds of amusement. They rumbled with laughter. They tilted their heads trying to read her thoughts. But they found nothing. Her mind was quiet, too quiet. "Welcome to the Academy," said. Her voice was soft but clear. It reached every corner of the massive hall. "I am instructor. I will teach you combat strategy and battlefield control for the next cycle." A cadet stepped forward. His armor was black as night. "You are human." "Yes." "Humans have only fought wars on one planet, one small planet. We have conquered star systems. We have destroyed fleets. What can you possibly teach us?" Looked at him. Her eyes were dark brown, almost black. There was something in those eyes, something they could not name. "I will teach you control," she said. The cadet laughed again. "Control? Humans have no control. Your species cannot even control your own emotions. You feel everything. Fear, anger, sadness. You are slaves to your feelings." Did not move, she did not blink. "You think emotions are weakness." "They are," said Tal. He stepped forward, his 4 arms folded across his chest. "The removed emotions from our minds generations ago. We think clearly. We act without hesitation. We are perfect soldiers." "And the feel nothing at all," added the stone-skinned warrior. "We were bred this way. We cannot be afraid, we cannot be angry, we simply fight." Nodded slowly. "I have read your files, all of you. You believe that feeling nothing makes you strong. You believe that empty minds create perfect warriors." "It is true," said Tal. "No," said "it is not." The room went silent. No one had ever spoken to them this way. No one had ever challenged the beliefs they had held for thousands of years. Began to walk. She moved between the groups of cadets, looking at each of them in turn. Her steps were slow and deliberate. "You suppress your emotions," she said. "You cut them out. You breathe them away. You think this makes you strong, but you are wrong. You have made yourselves incomplete." The leader, a thin being named Vex, spoke in a whisper. "We have seen your history, human, your wars, your violence, your chaos. Emotions brought you nothing but suffering." "Yes," said she, stopped walking. "We suffered, we still suffer, but we also learned." She turned to face all of them. The tiny humans standing before the giants of the galaxy. "Humans do not remove emotions. We do not suppress them. We feel everything. Fear, rage, love, hate, joy, sorrow. We feel it all every moment of every day." "Then you are weak," said the smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but something about it made several cadets step back. "Tomorrow," she said, "we begin training, and I will show you what humans have learned about control, real control." She walked toward the exit. At the door, she stopped and looked back over her shoulder. "Get some rest, you will need it." Then she was gone. The cadets stood in silence. They looked at each other with confusion in their eyes. They who felt nothing felt something strange stirring in their minds. They who feared nothing felt a small cold sensation in their chests. Tal stared at the door where the human had disappeared. "What was that?" asked another. "What did we just feel?" Tal did not answer. He did not know. But somewhere deep in his disciplined mind, in a place he thought he had destroyed long ago, a single word whispered itself. Doubt. The night passed slowly on the space station. The cadets rested in their assigned rooms, but few of them actually slept. They spent the hours talking about the human instructor. They made jokes. They laughed. They could not believe that such a small, young creature would dare to teach them anything. In the section, Tal sat with his fellow cadets. Their rooms were bare and simple. No decorations, no comfort, just beds and walls. "She spoke to us like we were children," said a female named Sara. Her blue skin was lighter than Tal's and her 4 arms were crossed tight. "A human, teaching us about control. It is ridiculous." Tal nodded, but he said nothing. He was still thinking about those dark eyes, about that small smile. "Perhaps the Academy is testing us," said another cadet named. "Maybe they want to see how we handle insult, how we maintain our discipline." "That must be it," Sara agreed. "No one would actually expect us to learn from a human. Their species is barely out of their caves." The cadets were even more vocal. In their section, they sat in a circle on the floor. Their massive bodies made the furniture useless. They spoke in their rumbling language about the human. "I could break her with one hand," said a named. He held up his enormous gray fist. "She is so small, so fragile, like an insect." "All humans are fragile," said another. "Their bones break easily. Their skin tears. They need air and water and food. They are weak in every way." Laughed. "Tomorrow, I will show her what real strength is. I will not be taught by a creature I could crush beneath my foot. Morning came. The lights in the station grew brighter, simulating sunrise. The cadets gathered in the training hall. It was a vast space with high ceilings and walls that could change into any environment. Right now, it was empty, just a gray floor and gray walls stretching in every direction. Instructor was already there. She stood in the center of the room, wearing the same simple gray uniform. Her hands were behind her back. Her face was calm. The cadets formed their groups again. They kept their distance from her, like predators watching prey they did not quite understand. "Good morning," said. Her voice was quiet but somehow filled the entire hall. "Today, we will discuss combat philosophy. The way you think about fighting will determine how you perform in battle." The cadet from yesterday stepped forward. His name was, and his black armor seemed to absorb the light around him. "We do not need philosophy lessons from you, human. We have been warriors for 50,000 years. Your species was still learning to make fire when we conquered our first star system." Several cadets made sounds of agreement. The rumbled, the nodded their large heads. "Looked at, tell me about your philosophy then. How do they approach combat?" Stood taller, he was proud. "We believe in efficiency. Every strike must have purpose. Every movement must lead to victory. We waste nothing. We feel nothing. We simply achieve our objective. And that has served you well." "We have never lost a war," said. "Interesting." Began to walk slowly around the room. "And the Tal, tell me about your approach." Tal felt something strange when she said his name. How did she know his name? He had not introduced himself. He stepped forward. "The belief that emotion clouds judgment. We remove all feeling from our minds. In battle, we think with perfect clarity. We see every possibility. We choose the optimal path. There is no fear to slow us down, no anger to make us careless." "No fear," repeated, interesting, and the pushed his way to the front. He towered over everyone, even the other. "We do not need philosophy. We are weapons. We were made to fight. We feel nothing because feeling is useless. We simply destroy." "Simply destroy," said. She stopped walking. "So all of you believe the same thing. Remove emotion. Think clearly. Act efficiently. This is what makes a perfect warrior." "Yes," said multiple voices at once. Smiled that small smile again. "You are all wrong." The room erupted. Cadets shouted in their various languages. Took a step forward, his massive fists clenched. His hand moved toward his weapon, but did not move. She stood perfectly still, her eyes moving from face to face. "You think you are perfect," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. "But perfection is a lie. You have made yourselves less than what you could be." "Less," Sora shouted. "We have removed our weaknesses." "No," said. "You have removed your greatest strength." The cadets fell silent, confused by her words. "Let me tell you about humans," continued. She began to walk again, her soft footsteps the only sound. "We are everything you said. We are weak. Our bodies break easily. We need food and water and air. We live short lives. We feel everything." She paused, looking at the "We feel fear. When death comes close, our hearts beat fast. Our hands shake. Our minds scream at us to run." She turned to the "We feel anger. When someone hurts us, when someone hurts the ones we love, rage fills us like fire. It burns inside us, demanding release." She looked at the "We feel love. We form bonds with others. We care about people. We would die for them. We would kill for them." Shook his head. "These things make you weak. They make you predictable. They make you vulnerable." "Yes," agreed. "They do, but they also make us dangerous." She stopped in the center of the room again. "You believe that removing emotion makes you better soldiers. But what you have really done is put limits on yourselves. A soldier who feels nothing will only ever do what is necessary. They will never do what is impossible." "Impossible things are impossible," said. "That is what the word means." "Is it?" looked at him with those dark eyes. "Let me tell you a story, a true story from human history." She clasped her hands behind her back. 300 years ago on Earth there was a war, a terrible war. One nation was invaded by enemies who outnumbered them 10 to 1. Their army was destroyed. Their cities were burning. By every logical calculation, they should have surrendered. "What did they do?" asked the cadet. Despite himself, he was curious. "They fought," said, "not because they thought they could win. By every measure, victory was impossible, but they fought anyway. Men and women who had never held weapons took up arms. Children ran messages through enemy lines. Old people built barricades with their bare hands." She let the words hang in the air. They fought because they were afraid of losing their home. They fought because they were angry at the invaders. They fought because they loved their families and their land and their way of life. They fought with every emotion burning inside them. "And they lost," Tal said. "They must have lost. Logic does not lie." "They won," said quietly. "They won because their enemies could not understand them. The invaders calculated that the smaller nation would surrender when the odds became hopeless. But humans do not follow logic when emotions are involved. We do not stop fighting when we should. We do not accept defeat when defeat is certain." The room was completely silent now. "Your races have spent thousands of years trying to become perfect machines, and you succeeded. You think clearly. You act efficiently. You make the logical choice every time." Paused. "But that is exactly what makes you predictable. That is exactly what makes you beatable." She looked around at all of them. "A perfect machine will always make the optimal move. But that means your enemy can always predict what you will do. If they know you will make the logical choice, they know what choice you will make." Tal felt something crack inside his mind, something he had thought was solid and permanent. "Humans are different," continued. "We are chaos wrapped in flesh. We do irrational things. We fight when we should run. We die for ideas that exist only in our minds. We love people we have never met. We hate enemies who are already dead." She smiled again, and this time the smile was wider. It showed teeth. "You cannot predict us. You cannot calculate us. You cannot understand us. And that is why you should fear us." For the first time in his life, he felt something cold in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it. It was fear. The cadets did not believe her. Words were just words. Anyone could tell stories. Anyone could make grand speeches about emotion and chaos and fear. But talk meant nothing in war. Only action mattered. Stepped forward, his massive body casting a shadow over the human instructor. He looked down at her with his small black eyes. "You speak well," he said, "but speaking is not fighting. You say humans are dangerous because of your emotions. Show us, fight me." The other cadets murmured with interest. This was what they wanted to see. The tiny human against the mountain of gray stone. It would be over in seconds. Looked up at. The top of her head barely reached his chest. Her arms were thin where his were thick as tree trunks. Her soft skin looked fragile next to his hide of living rock. "You want to fight me?" she asked. "I want to end this joke," replied. "You are not our instructor, you are not our equal, you are nothing." Nodded slowly. "Very well, but not just you." The murmurs grew louder. "What do you mean?" Tal asked. Looked around the room. All of you, every cadet at the same time. Silence, then laughter, the roared with amusement, the made sounds of disbelief. Even the silence seemed to shake their heads. "You are mad," Sora said. "There are 48 of us. You are one human." "Yes," agreed. 48 against 1. Those seem like fair odds to me." Stopped laughing. He stared at the human with new eyes. Was she truly insane, or did she know something they did not? "You will be hurt," he warned, "perhaps killed." "Perhaps," said. She walked to the center of the training floor. "Computer, activate combat simulation, training level maximum, safety protocols standard." The gray walls flickered and changed. Suddenly, they were standing on a rocky battlefield. Mountains rose in the distance. The sky was red, filled with smoke and ash. The ground was broken and uneven, covered with boulders and craters. "This simulation will feel real," said. She pulled off her gray jacket and stood in just her black undershirt. Her arms were lean and muscled. Scars marked her skin in several places, old wounds that had healed but never faded. "Your weapons will cause pain. Mine will too. When you are hit, you will feel it. You will fall. You will want to stop, but nothing will actually harm you." The cadets spread out across the battlefield. They moved into combat formations, surrounding the human from all sides. 48 warriors from 12 races. Thousands of years of combined experience. Centuries of training. The most dangerous young soldiers in the galaxy. Against one small woman. "Begin," said. Moved first. He charged like an avalanche, his feet shaking the ground. His fist swung down with enough force to crush metal. Was not there. She had moved, faster than any of them could follow. One moment she was standing still. The next she was behind, her hand pressing against a point on his spine. Pain exploded through his body. He had never felt pain like this. He fell to his knees, unable to move. "Pressure point," said calmly. "Even stone has weak spots." 3 attacked next. They came from different angles, their movements perfectly coordinated. They had trained together for decades. They knew each other's minds. Flowed between them like water. She did not fight like the warriors they knew. There was no formal stance, no predictable pattern. She moved in ways that made no sense, bending and twisting and striking in motions that seemed impossible. A fell, then another. The third managed to grab her arm, but she used his grip against him, spinning and throwing him into a boulder. "She is using our strength against us," said. He stood back, watching carefully. "She lets us attack and redirects our own power." "Then we do not let her redirect," Tal said. He signaled to his fellow, "Attack together, overwhelm her with numbers." 6 charged. 24 arms reached for the human, grabbing and striking from every direction. No one could dodge that many attacks at once. It was mathematically impossible. Did not dodge. She grabbed the nearest and pulled him into the path of the others. Bodies collided. Arms tangled. In the confusion, she moved through them like a ghost, her fingers finding nerves and joints and soft places between armor. In seconds, all 6 were on the ground. Tal watched with wide eyes. He had never seen anything like this. She was not stronger than them. She was not faster than them, but she was something else, something he could not name. "Her movements have no pattern," said. The telepaths were trying to read her mind, trying to predict her next action. "Her thoughts are strange. She thinks of many things at once, her family, her home. A song she heard as a child, the smell of rain. It is chaos, beautiful chaos." "Can you predict her?" Tal asked. "No, she does not know what she will do next. How can we know?" More cadets attacked. The mechanical warriors moved with perfect precision. They tried to confuse her with mental projections. The remaining charged together in a wall of stone. Fought them all. She used the terrain. She ducked behind boulders. She led attackers into each other. She found the weakness in every defense, the flaw in every strategy. She fought dirty. She fought clever. She fought like someone who had survived 100 battles through luck and will and sheer refusal to die. But she also took hits. A fist caught her shoulder. A knee slammed into her ribs. A blade cut her arm. Blood ran down her skin, mixing with sweat and dust. She did not stop. Each hit seemed to make her faster. Each wound seemed to fuel something inside her. Her eyes burned with intensity. Her face twisted with effort and pain and something else. Something that looked almost like joy. "She is enjoying this," said. He was one of the few still standing, watching from the edge of the battle. "She is wounded and outnumbered, and she is enjoying this." "That is madness," said a beside him. "No," replied quietly, "that is human." Tal finally entered the fight. He had been studying her, trying to find a pattern, trying to calculate her next move. But that was right. There was no pattern. There was only chaos. He attacked with all four arms, striking high and low, fast and strong. His training was perfect. His technique was flawless. Caught one of his wrists. Her grip was like iron. She looked into his eyes, and for a moment time seemed to stop. "You feel it now, don't you?" she said. "That thing in your chest, that heat in your blood, that voice screaming in your mind." Tal did feel it. He felt something rising inside him, something he had buried long ago, something his people had spent generations trying to kill. "That is anger," said. "You are angry because you cannot beat me. You are frustrated because nothing makes sense. You want to scream and rage and break something." She released his wrist. "Use it." Tal attacked again, but this time something was different. He stopped thinking about technique. He stopped calculating odds. He just fought. For the first time in his life, he fought with something other than his mind. He fought with his heart. His strikes came faster, harder, less precise but more powerful. He pushed back, forcing her to dodge instead of counter. For a moment, just a moment, he thought he might actually hit her. Then she smiled. Her hand shot forward and pressed against his chest. Pain flooded his body and he fell. But as he lay on the ground, staring up at the red sky, Tal realized something. That moment of fighting, that brief time when he had stopped thinking and simply acted, it had been the most alive he had ever felt. The battle continued around him. More cadets fell, was slowing now, her wounds taking their toll. But she kept fighting. She kept moving. She refused to stop. Finally, after what felt like hours, she stood alone in the center of the battlefield. 48 cadets lay around her, groaning and struggling to rise. She was covered in blood. Some of it was hers, some was not. Her chest heaved with exhausted breaths. Her hands trembled, but her eyes were still bright, still burning with that impossible fire. "This," she said, her voice rough and tired, "is what humans are. This is what emotion gives us. The will to keep fighting when our bodies want to stop. The strength to face impossible odds and refuse to accept defeat." She looked at each of them in turn. "You felt it during the battle, some of you. That fire, that rage, that desperate need to win. You have spent your lives suppressing it, but it is still there, buried deep inside you. And today, just for a moment, you let it out." She began to walk toward the exit, stepping carefully over fallen cadets. "Class dismissed. Tomorrow, we learn how to control the fire without putting it out." She left them there on the simulated battlefield. 48 of the galaxy's finest warriors, defeated by one small human woman. And somewhere inside each of them, a flame had been lit that would never quite go out. 3 days passed after the battle. The cadets healed quickly. Their bodies were strong and the station's medical technology was advanced. But something else was different now, something that medicine could not fix or explain. They spoke differently to each other. The no longer kept strictly to themselves. They did not laugh at the smaller races. Even the silence seemed less hostile, their postures slightly more open. Tal spent long hours in his room, sitting in silence. He kept returning to that moment in the battle, that brief time when he had stopped thinking and simply acted. It scared him. It fascinated him. He wanted to feel it again. Sora found him on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. She stood beside him without speaking for a long time. "I felt something," she finally said. "During the fight, when I thought she might actually hurt me, my heart beat faster. My hands felt strange, hot, tight." "Fear," Tal said. "You felt fear. How do you know what it is called?" "I looked it up." Tal turned to face her. "I researched human emotions. They have names for all of them: fear, anger, joy, sorrow, love, hate. They have studied these feelings for thousands of years." "Why?" Sora asked. "Why study something so messy?" "Because they cannot remove them, so instead they try to understand them." Tal paused. They try to control them. On the fourth day, instructor called them back to the training hall. She stood in the same spot as before, hands behind her back, face calm. But she looked different now. The cadets had seen what was behind that calm surface. They had felt it. "You have questions," said. It was not a question. Stepped forward. His armor was repaired, but his pride was still wounded. "You defeated all of us, but you were hurt. You bled, you suffered. How is that control?" "I did not say control meant avoiding pain," replied. "Control means choosing what to do with your emotions, not letting them control you, making them work for you instead." "I do not understand," said. The massive looked smaller somehow, less certain. "You say emotions make you strong, but emotions are chaos. They make you do foolish things." "Sometimes," agreed, "and sometimes foolish things are the right things to do." She walked to a nearby console and touched several buttons. A holographic display appeared in the air, showing a human brain. When humans feel strong emotions, our brains release chemicals. These chemicals change how we think and move. Fear makes us faster, more alert. Anger makes us stronger, more aggressive. Love makes us willing to sacrifice everything. She rotated the image. "Your races have eliminated these chemicals. You have cut off the parts of your brains that produce them. You think this makes you more efficient, but you have also cut off the parts that allow you to exceed your normal limits." "Exceed our limits?" a cadet asked. "That is impossible. Limits are limits." "No," shook her head. "Limits are just lines we draw in our minds, and emotions can erase those lines." She pulled up a new display. This one showed a human female lifting a crashed vehicle off the ground. This woman was on Earth. A vehicle fell on her child. The vehicle weighed more than she could possibly lift. Every calculation said it was impossible for her to move it. The cadets watched as the woman in the video screamed and grabbed the vehicle. Her muscles strained. Her face twisted with effort. And slowly, impossibly, she lifted it enough for someone to pull her child free. "She lifted 3 times what her body should have been able to lift," said. "The doctors could not explain it, but humans know what happened. Love gave her strength. Fear of losing her child pushed her beyond her limits." The room was silent. "This is what you have lost," continued. "When you removed your emotions, you also removed your ability to do impossible things. You became efficient, predictable, limited." Tal stepped forward. "But emotions also cause suffering, pain, loss. The histories of your species are filled with terrible things done because of feelings." "Yes," said softly, "they are." She touched the console again. The display changed to show images of war, human war, cities burning, bodies lying in streets, children crying among ruins. Humans have caused terrible suffering because of our emotions. We have hated people for the color of their skin. We have killed each other over ideas that exist only in our minds. We have destroyed and burned and murdered in the name of things that made no sense. She paused, letting the images sink in. "But we have also done beautiful things. We have created art that makes people weep with joy. We have written songs that are remembered for centuries. We have built great things and dreamed greater dreams. We have loved each other with such power that it changed the course of history." The images changed again. Now they showed humans helping each other, rescuing strangers from disasters, sharing food with enemies, holding hands across battlefields. "This is the truth about emotions," said. "They can destroy, but they can also create. They can make us monsters, but they can also make us heroes. The difference is control." She turned off the display and faced them directly. "You think control means feeling nothing, but real control is feeling everything and choosing what to do with it. Real control is being filled with rage and deciding where to point it. Real control is being terrified and fighting anyway." Raised his massive hand. It was strange to see the warrior looking uncertain. "How? How do you control something so powerful? If I felt what you feel, I would be overwhelmed. I would lose myself." You learn, said, slowly, painfully. You fail many times. You hurt yourself and others. But eventually, if you keep trying, you learn to ride the storm instead of being drowned by it. She walked among them now, looking at each face. Humans are not born with this control. We learn it over our short lives. Every child must learn to manage their anger. Every young person must learn to handle their fear. Every adult must learn to balance their love and their duty. She stopped in front of Tal. You felt it during our battle. That moment when you stopped thinking and simply acted. You were afraid. You were angry. And for just a second, you used those feelings instead of being used by them. Tal nodded slowly. It was powerful but also frightening. I felt out of control. You were not out of control, said. You were in a different kind of control, a deeper kind, one that uses your whole self instead of just part of it. She moved to stand before all of them again. This is what I am here to teach you, not how to fight. You already know how to fight. I am here to teach you how to feel, how to use the emotions you have buried deep inside yourselves, how to be whole instead of half. Crossed his arms. Why? Why would the Academy want us to feel emotions? Our races abandon feelings for good reasons. Because war is changing, said. The galaxy has enjoyed peace for 2 centuries, but that peace will not last. It never does. And when the next great war comes, you will face enemies who cannot be defeated by logic alone. Her voice grew harder. There are threats coming, threats that your races have never faced, enemies who do not follow rules or patterns. Chaos itself is coming, and you cannot fight chaos with order. You can only fight chaos with controlled chaos. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. That is what humans are, controlled chaos. We feel everything, but we choose what to do with it. We are unpredictable, but we are not random. We are dangerous because our enemies can never know what we will do. Not even we know until we do it. The cadets looked at each other. Something was shifting in the room, something fundamental. I cannot promise this will be easy, said. Learning to feel again after generations of suppression will be painful. Some of you may not be able to do it. Some of you may be overwhelmed by what you find inside yourselves. She clasped her hands behind her back. But those of you who succeed will be different from any soldiers your races have ever produced. You will be stronger, faster, more creative, more dangerous. You will be able to do things that pure logic says are impossible. Tal felt something stir in his chest, that same feeling from the battle, but now he had a name for it. Hope. He stepped forward. I want to learn. Sara joined him. So do I. One by one, the other cadets stepped forward. Even the mechanical, who had believed they were beyond emotion, moved to join them. Looked at them all. For a moment, something softened in her dark eyes, something that might have been pride or love. Then let us begin, she said. Let us teach you how to be human. 6 months passed on the space station. The cadets trained every day under instructors' guidance. They learned things that no one in their races had learned for generations. They learned to feel. It was not easy. The first weeks were chaos. Cadets who had never felt anger destroyed training equipment in fits of rage. Warriors who had never known fear ran from simulated battles, overwhelmed by terror they could not understand. Telepaths who had always controlled their minds found themselves weeping for no reason they could explain. Many times had to stop training to help a cadet who had been consumed by their newly awakened emotions. She sat with them. She talked to them. She held their hands as they shook and cried and screamed. This is normal, she would say. You are feeling thousands of years of suppressed emotion all at once. It will pass. You will learn to control it. Slowly they did. Tal was one of the first to find balance. He discovered that his anger, when directed properly, made his strikes faster and more powerful. He learned to feel fear without running from it. He learned to use his emotions like weapons, pulling them out when needed and putting them away when they were not. "I understand now," he told one evening. They stood on the observation deck watching the stars. "Emotions are not weaknesses to be removed. They are tools to be mastered." "Yes," said, "but they are more than tools. They are what make you alive. They are what make life worth living." Tal considered this. "My people believe that peace comes from emptiness, from wanting nothing, feeling nothing." "And what do you believe now?" Tal was quiet for a long moment. "I believe peace comes from acceptance, from feeling everything and accepting that it is part of you, the joy and the pain, the love and the loss, all of it." Smiled, it was a real smile, warm and gentle. "You have learned well." They had the hardest journey. His people had been bred to feel nothing for so long that awakening his emotions was like trying to start a fire with wet wood. But eventually, even he began to change. One day, during a training exercise, a cadet was injured. The simulation had malfunctioned and the pain was real. They lay on the ground, bleeding and crying. The other cadets stood frozen, unsure what to do. They had not been trained for this. Their instinct was to continue the exercise, to ignore the fallen soldier and complete their objective. But moved. The massive warrior dropped to his knees beside the injured. His huge gray hands, built for crushing and destroying, gently lifted the smaller being. "I will carry you to medical," said. His voice was strange, soft. "You will be safe." They looked up at him with wide eyes. Why do you care?" Paused, he searched for the word, the name for what he was feeling. "Because you are my friend," he said finally, "and friends help each other." It was the first time in the history of his species that a warrior had called anyone a friend. As the months passed, something remarkable happened. The cadets began to form bonds with each other, not alliances based on politics or strategy, real friendships, real connections. And trained together and laughed together, and shared meals and stories. The who had believed themselves to be merely machines began to express preferences and desires and something that looked very much like happiness. The final test came at the end of the 6th month, gathered all 48 cadets in the training hall. But this time, they did not stand in separate groups. They stood together, mixed and mingled, their species no longer defining their positions. "Your training is almost complete," said, "but before you graduate there is one final test." The walls of the training hall changed. They showed a battlefield but not a simulated one. This was real, a holographic display of an actual conflict happening at that moment, somewhere in the galaxy. 3 days ago, a colony on the outer rim was attacked by raiders. Unknown species, unknown weapons. The colony has 1,000 civilians, including children. The local defense forces have been destroyed. Help is too far away to arrive in time. The cadets watched the display. They saw buildings burning. They saw people running. They saw children crying in the streets. "This is your test," said. "There is a ship waiting in the hangar. It can get you there in 2 hours. The raiders outnumber you 3 to 1. They have better weapons, better armor. Every calculation says you cannot win." She looked at each of them in turn. "What do you do?" The old cadets would have hesitated. They would have calculated the odds. They would have concluded that the mission was impossible and recommended waiting for proper reinforcements. But these were not the old cadets. Tal stepped forward. "We go." "We fight," added, his voice like thunder. "We save them," Sora said, and there were tears in her eyes, tears of anger, tears of determination. One by one, every cadet spoke. Their voices joined together, different languages and different sounds all saying the same thing. "We go, we fight, we save them." Looked at them, and for the first time since they had known her, her eyes were wet. Tears ran down her cheeks. She did not hide them. "I am proud of you," she said, "all of you." She touched the console. The display changed to show tactical information, maps and numbers and deployment patterns. "The ship is ready. I have programmed the best approach vector. You will drop into the main square and work outward. Protect the civilians first. Engage the raiders second. Stepped forward. You are not coming with us. Shook her head. This is your test, not mine. You must do this alone. She walked among them one last time, looking at each face. Remember what I taught you. Feel everything. Fear and anger and love. Use it all. Let it make you stronger. Let it make you faster. Let it make you willing to do impossible things. She stopped in the center of the group. And remember one more thing, the most important thing. You are not fighting for glory or victory or your races. You are fighting for those people down there, for the children who are crying, for the families who are dying. You are fighting for love. She stepped back. Now go, show the galaxy what you have become. The cadets moved as one. They ran for the hangar. Their footsteps echoed through the station like thunder. They were afraid. They were angry. They were hopeful. They were alive. Tal was the last to leave. He stopped at the door and looked back at. Instructor, he said, what is the most important lesson you taught us? Smiled through her tears. That feeling is not weakness. That chaos is not madness. That being human is not about your species. It is about your heart. It is about choosing to feel, to love, to fight for something greater than yourself. Tal nodded. He understood. Thank you, he said, for everything. Then he was gone, running to join his friends, his family, his fellow warriors. Stood alone in the empty training hall. She watched the holographic display as the ship launched and raced toward the colony. She watched 48 cadets who had come to her as empty machines transform into something new. Something dangerous, something beautiful, something human. The battle would be hard. Some of them might not survive, but they would fight with everything they had, every emotion, every feeling, every beat of their hearts. And when it was over, the galaxy would remember this day. The day that aliens learned to be human. The day that control meant something more than emptiness. Wiped her tears and smiled. Her work here was done. But somewhere out there, among the stars, her students were just beginning. And she knew with absolute certainty that they would do impossible things. Because that was what humans did. And now so would they.